Hello and welcome to the Glory Glory podcast. I'm your host as always, Cal Quinn, and today I'm joined by Rob Dawson from ESPN, who's the ESPN's Manchester correspondent. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks a lot for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. Let's get straight to it. United appear to be in negotiations to sign Jadon Sancho again. Do you think they'll get over the line this summer?
Yeah, I think it's more likely this summer than it was last summer. I think it's pretty well known by now that United were in for him last summer. There were sort of obstacles to overcome with personal terms and agent fees and stuff like that, and even those kind of they got passed eventually. That there was always a problem with the fee or agreeing a fee with Dortmund. I think there'll be a similar issue this summer, but just judging by the way that people are talking about it, both from Sancho's side and United side, and some of the stuff coming out of Germany, it feels a lot more realistic this summer. United are in a little bit of a better position financially. Last summer, they were cautious in the way that they dealt with the transfer market because they weren't sure about what was happening with the coronavirus pandemic. They didn't want to do something that they would later regret down the line. They couldn't really see sort of a way out of it last summer. I think it's a little bit different this summer, so they probably won't be quite as cautious. Obviously, Sancho is a year further into his contract with Dortmund, so obviously the price comes down a little bit. I think that again the stumbling block will be the fee. I don't think the fee is quite as low as United perhaps were expecting. But that said, they are still confident as things stands of getting that over the line eventually. It's one of those, it'll be done when it's done. This process, the process of signing players, especially big players for big money, is an arduous task, and it takes time. I think United are more confident perhaps than they were last summer, but it's one of those. It'll be done when it's done.
Yeah, I mean they've got plenty of time to negotiate now with the Euros being on. You think that the apparently Dortmund have set another deadline of July the 31st. Do you think United will be able to get it done by then?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult with stuff like that because obviously Dortmund have got their own sort of pack of journalists who they speak to on and off the record. United, similar. One of the issues last summer was that there was lots of talk coming out of Germany about a deadline being set, that there was a very strict deadline for United to get that deal done. Well, even very late on in the window, United were, or at least said that they weren't aware of that. It's not a case of Dortmund have phoned Man United to say, we know that you want Jadon. This is a date that you have to get it done. If you don't get it done by this date, it's not happening. United just weren't aware, or certainly weren't told in those terms that there was a deadline. It's fair enough for Dortmund to set a deadline because obviously they want to know that the squad of players they have for the new season, the last thing any club wants is to go into the last sort of weeks and days of the transfer window not knowing if one of your star players is leaving. So it makes sense from a Dortmund point of view. It's just not something that United, at least last summer, that was communicated directly to them, which is why sort of even late on in the window, United still thought that there was a chance to do it. Now, I think Dortmund start their pre-season training the 23rd of July. They go off to Switzerland, I think, for their camp. Around then seems like the time that they want a clear sort of idea of what's happening with Jadon Sancho. The difficulty is, you just mentioned it there, as a European Championship. We're sat now sort of early June. Jadon Sancho, if England get to the final of the European Championships, he won't be released from England duty until I think it's the 11th of July, which doesn't leave a huge amount of time to get quite a significant deal done. So I wouldn't hang too much on these deadlines. Dortmund are well aware that United want him. It's one of those things that if there is a willingness on all sides to do it, which I think there is more so than there was last year, that it will get done. Obviously, United wants it done as early as possible. Dortmund, if he goes, will want it done as early as possible because both these clubs and Jadon himself will want clarity about what's happening next season.
Okay, another name that's been strongly linked for a summer move to United is Raphael Varane. This name has been linked with United for the last decade or so. Do you think it could actually happen this summer?
It's a possibility. Raphael Varane falls into a category of players who are so good that if the opportunity presents itself, you have to do it. You've said there that Varane's been linked with United for years, since before the summer that Phil Jones joined, when he moved from Lens to Real Madrid. So the interest is nothing new. Even when Jose Mourinho was really keen to sign a centre back in the summer of 2018, the message from United was that the players on the market, or the players being considered, they didn't feel were the right fit at the time. That said, the example they used was that if Raphael Varane had been available for 100 million in that summer, they would have gone and done it, because Raphael Varane is so good, won everything, so experienced, that it would make sense to do that. I don't necessarily think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has gone to the club to say, I want Raphael Varane. I think it's more that his contract situation at Real Madrid makes it silly, really, not to investigate that. Everyone will know that he is running out of time on his contract at Real Madrid, that there hasn't been a quick agreement with the club. Madrid are in the same boat as a lot of clubs in Europe, and they haven't got an awful lot of money to spend. So if Varane is to leave, it makes more sense to cash in this summer than to lose him for free down the line. I actually think that Solskjaer would prefer a left-footed player to complement Harry Maguire and let Harry Maguire play on the right. But again, Varane falls into that category of being such a good player that if the opportunity presents itself, then you have to do everything you can to get him. So I guess it's one to watch. That situation will be dictated very heavily by what happens between Varane and Real Madrid, because again, it's a situation that United would hope to take advantage of more than he's top of our list, we have to get him. If it happens, it would be great. Obviously, everyone will know how good a player he is. United have had problems at the back this season, conceded probably far too many goals than they would like, obviously. So if it happens, great. But again, I think it will be dictated by what happens between Varane and Real Madrid.
So if United don't get Varane, then what are the alternatives?
Well, Pau Torres at Villarreal is one of them. I mentioned there about Ollie being quite keen to find a left-footed player to add some balance to the back four, and obviously Pau Torres fits that bill. A Spain international. You will have all seen how well he played against United in that Europa League final. He falls into the right age bracket that United are looking for, someone that they think that they can sign or could sign and develop and make him even better than he is now. There's also the added attraction with Torres is that there's a release clause in his contract, and Ed Woodward and the board are they like situations like that because they don't like haggling over fees particularly. They like a situation where the fee is there and they know what they have to pay in order to get him out of his contract. So that's an added advantage with Pau Torres. There are obviously other names on the list. Romero at Atlanta has impressed. Koundé at Seville as well is another one that the club like. The difficulty this summer will be how well he prioritises his funds, because it's not a case that he's said, I want a right winger, a centre half, and someone else. He knows that there are more than 3 positions that he needs to strengthen. There are probably 5 or 6 that he would like to, but the funds this summer won't be infinite. It's not a case that United are able to go and spend 500 million in one summer, and it will be down to Ollie and the recruitment team to decide where that money is best spent. It may be that it's Sancho, a centre half, and a right back. It may be that it's Sancho, a central midfielder, and a right back, and a centre half has to wait until next summer. Again, most United fans will know that United are keen eventually to sign an out-and-out centre forward, and there is an interest in the likes of Erling Haaland and Harry Kane. But again, it may be something that has to wait a year. because they can't just do everything in one summer. It'll be about Ollie and the recruitment team prioritising what they need and what they think is the best decisions for this summer.
We've seen Kieran Trippier linked as well. He is a man from Bury, and he's just won the league with Atletico Madrid. I would say Atletico are probably keen to keep him. Do you think United could get him this summer?
I think from what I've heard about that, there's a willingness on his side to certainly come back to England and sign for United. As you say, they just won the league with Atletico Madrid, so whether they would be keen to let him go is another matter entirely. It's another position that Ollie wants to look at. They had great success last season by signing Alex Telles, not because Telles was particularly good, but because the competition, it seems, has managed to spur Luke Shaw onto a different level. And I think he's looking at the right back slot and thinking that, Aaron Wan-Bissaka's had to play 60 odd games last season, and that's probably too many. And that maybe if there's competition there, genuine competition for a place, that you may get a situation where Aaron can push on in the way that Luke has this season. Kieran Trippier is an interesting one because he's very, very experienced, and that you wonder whether he would be open to joining Man United on the understanding that he's competing or sharing the workload with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. The other name that's been mentioned at fullback is Max Aarons at Norwich, and United asked about him in January. That was knocked back quite quickly by Norwich because Norwich had made it quite clear that they wanted to keep that squad together to make sure they got promoted to the Premier League. That's obviously happened now. And there is a willingness, I think, from Max Aarons to move on and join a top 6 Premier League club. The difference with those two players is that Aarons is a lot younger and perhaps would settle for a role where he's competing for that fullback role with Aaron, whereas Kieran Trippier will want to play at his stage of his career, will want to play every week. So yeah, I think it's a possibility that he signs. It's just a case of what direction United go, and again, it goes back to Ollie having to prioritise which positions he strengthens, because he won't be able to do everything that he wants in this one window.
Okay, what about the De Gea Henderson situation? Is Ollie any near to making a decision?
He may be. It's probably not something that he's going to tell us, and he certainly hasn't really given much away during the season. It's obviously an interesting situation because very few clubs in the world have got 2 goalkeepers who could be number ones in their own right. I think that the issue that United have had, the problem that they've had, is that Dean Henderson's probably progressed a year quicker than they thought. I think they thought that he would spend a little bit of time in the lower leagues in League One, then go to maybe a Championship side, and then sort of maybe last year or this year move to a Premier League side and prove that he could do it in the Premier League. But Dean has been so good that he's kind of caught United out a little bit in how fast he's developed. I think it was Solskjaer will tell you that last season that he was happy with how it went. I know that lots of fans will look at it and go, well, no, you need to have an out-and-out number one, and it gives a lot more confidence to the back four if they know the goalkeeper they're going to play in front of. It gives the goalkeeper more confidence because he knows he's going to play week in, week out. But Ollie will tell you that he liked the way that competition went, and that he thought that it made both goalkeepers better. The problem is that I think now, having a season competing with each other, that neither one of those is going to want to be number 2. David De Gea has still got a number of years as a goalkeeper, a number 1 goalkeeper at a top club. And Dean Henderson obviously is the younger option, but again, feels he's very much ready to be Man United number 1 and England number 1. And had this season gone differently, if he'd been first choice for United, I think he thinks that there would have been a strong chance that he would have started the Euros as first choice. What happens from here is going to be interesting, because I'm not sure that situation can carry on the way it has done last season. Obviously, you've got De Gea, who's on quite a big contract. I think most people will know that. And if he was to move on, his wages would be a stumbling block, because there's no money in European football, especially among the clubs that would interest David De Gea. Would United want a situation where they're loaning De Gea out to another club and paying half his wages? Probably not, because of what's happened with the likes of Alexis Sanchez in the past. So it's difficult. I mean, I actually think there's a lot more interest as things stand in Dean Henderson than there is in David De Gea, simply because of his age and the wages that he's on. So yeah, I mean, it's a decision that Ollie's going to have to make, because I don't think that going into the new season with both goalkeepers vying for that number one spot it reaches a point where you need to make a decision, and you need to give the goalkeepers and the rest of the squad some clarity about what's going on. You know, I mean, it's likely, or they will sign Tom Heaton during this window, and also they've offered, or they're in talks with Lee Grant about another contract. So, you know, they could find a situation later in the window where they've got 4 senior first choice goalkeepers at the club, which, you know, is obviously too many.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of keepers that are, you know, just think of the wages that they're giving away just on keepers alone, and they can only play one.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've had the situation last season where, you know, everyone's been talking about Henderson and David De Gea, but you've had Sergio Romero on, you know, a very good wage, who's not even been registered for some of the squads. I mean, wasn't even eligible to play in some of the games because United, he wasn't registered. You know, Sergio Romero is a fantastic goalkeeper and has done brilliantly for United. But there was a situation last season where he just wasn't even close to being in the squad, in the matchday squad, or on the bench. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that needs to be addressed. Whether United can continue to carry De Gea's wages as one of the top earners at the club, but not playing every week is debatable. I don't think that's a situation that can carry on, really.
Okay, the fans really want to see United sign a defensive midfielder this summer, but I kind of get the feeling that it's not the number one priority for the manager.
Yeah, I mean, again, I mean, it goes back to Solskjaer and the recruitment team having to prioritise the positions that they strengthen. I mean, there's a strong interest in Declan Rice to fill that position. You know, again, with someone like Rice, he's so important to West Ham, and he's under contract there, that the fee that you would need to get him out of there is huge. So, can United afford to spend close to 100 million on Sancho, another 70 or 80 million on Declan Rice, and then another 50 or 60 million on a centre half in one summer? Probably not. So it will be up to Solskjaer to look at the squad and look where he's covered the best, and to work out where the money is best spent. It seems at this point that he is fully focused, or the recruitment team at least are fully focused on signing Jadon Sancho. So that's one down. United tend to work to a plan where they try to bring in around 3 each summer, just to keep the squad fresh and moving in the right direction. So if Sancho is 1, then there's another 2. And even just in this conversation, we've talked about centre halves, right backs, and defensive midfielders. That's already 3. So there is going to have to be some kind of compromise somewhere.
Yeah, because most of the fans accept that Fred McTominay pivot isn't going to win us the title, and that's why we really need, you know, a specialist whole midfielder in there. But it doesn't look like it's going to be prioritised this summer, and that might have to be the position that's left until next year.
It's possible. I mean, United have looked at Ben White in the past, and, you know, Ben White can play at centre half and in midfield. He's done it for England in the last week. So, you know, maybe there's a situation where, you know, you sign Jadon Sancho and you sign another. I'm not saying Ben White particularly. I'm saying a player who is versatile, who can maybe cover more than one position. The problem is that United have shown in the past that they don't want to cut corners like that. You know, there was the summer recently where Romelu Lukaku left, and everyone just assumed that they would sign a centre forward, and they didn't, because they decided that it was better to wait and get the right man than get the wrong man straight away. You know, I think in the end that kind of paid off, because we've seen Mason Greenwood develop perhaps a little bit quicker than he would have done if they'd signed a striker in that summer. So, just judging on what Solskjaer has wanted to do in the recent past, I would suggest that they would be happier waiting for a year. And if that means going into a season with Matic, Fred, and McTominay as your not holding midfielders, not all holding midfielders, but your defensive-minded midfielders. And I think they would probably do that on the understanding that they've improved other positions. Maybe you've signed Jadon Sancho for that right wing spot. Maybe you have got a centre half. Maybe you've got Torres or Varane at centre half, and then you've signed a right back as competition. Because ultimately, the goal for the football club is to win the Premier League title, and they're not going to do that by cutting corners. They have to build the best squad that they can possibly build, and if that means waiting a year for the right player, then I think they'll probably do that.
Okay, do you have any news on who might be leaving the club this summer? The likes of Phil Jones, Lingard, Matic.
Yeah, I mean, there will be outgoings. As I said before, United worked to a plan of signing around 3 players. Not definitely 3, but around 3. And with that, if 3 come in, then 3 are going to have to go. I think there's a good chance that the lads who were on loan last year, Dallo, Andres Pereira, United would be open to offers for them. Both are under fairly long contracts, so there would have to be some kind of fee involved. Obviously, then that helps Solskjaer because that fee would go into the transfer pot to sign new players. AC Milan are interested in Dallo. He did well there in last season, and they were quite happy with him. It's whether they can agree a fee that United are happy with. Pereira is a little bit of a different situation because Lazio have obviously changed their manager in the summer, so it'll be a case of whether Lazio change their strategy and who they want to sign now that Sarri's gone there. Jesse Lingard is a bit of a different case because everyone will have seen how well he did on loan at West Ham. He wasn't getting anywhere near the squad at the start of the season, mainly because Bruno Fernandes was playing so well. And obviously Fernandes is going to be first choice in that number 10 role next season. So there may be, again, limited chances for Jesse to play. The problem United have got with Lingard is that he's only got a year left on his contract. He'll enter the final year of his contract this summer. So the fee that they would be able to command for him would probably not be as high as how highly they value him. So their options this summer are to take a lower fee from a different club or to offer him a new contract. I'm not entirely sure that Jesse would sign a new contract to United without some assurances about the number of games he would get to play. The message that we've heard from his side of all this is that he is at an age now where he has to play week in, week out. He's loved it at West Ham because he's got to play. He knows that there he was a first team regular, and he feels like he's proved that he's good enough to be a first team regular in a good Premier League side. He also wants to play Champions League football, which rules out West Ham as a destination a little bit. There has been an awful lot of interest from most of the Premier League and from abroad as well. It's whether any of those clubs can match United's valuation. I think from Solskjaer's point of view, he would like Jesse back in the squad because Solskjaer wasn't particularly keen to let him go in January. He thought that it would weaken the squad and that he was worried that there may be a case that if he got a couple of injuries in that number 10 role, if Fernandes was to be out for a month or two, that he wouldn't have that many options. In the end, it's worked out for everyone because Jesse's gone to West Ham and played well, and Fernandes for the most part stayed fit. So I think Solskjaer would have him back if that was possible. But Jesse wants to play. He wants to play every week, and I'm not sure that's going to be a possibility at United.
Do you think Paul Pogba could leave this summer?
As things stand, no. Because I think that the market for him at the moment, for the fee that United would want first off, and the wages that he would want at a different club, I just don't think there's a market for him at the moment. That may change later on in summer if he has a fantastic European Championships, then possibly that may change, and everyone will know that he is open at the very least to looking elsewhere. I think as things stand, both United and Pogba envision a situation where he enters the last year of his contract, and then it becomes a gamble on both sides. It becomes a gamble for Paul because he could get injured, and without the safety net of a contract, that's very difficult for a player, especially someone like him who's in his peak years. For United, the gamble is that in 12 months' time, it's possible that he may leave for free. You're losing a a midfielder you paid £90 million for absolutely nothing, which would be, disastrous really for United. I think it's important though that despite what Mino Raiola has said in the past about him definitely not signing a new contract, United have never given up hope that he would sign a new contract. United have never said that he's definitely leaving, we won't extend, all the way through. Even when Mino Raiola was talking at the back end of last year, United always were consistent in their message that they had not given up hope in signing him to a longer extension, and that remains the same. So the longer it goes on, it just becomes a gamble on both sides. So I don't think there's that much of a chance as things stand that he leaves this summer. But is his future up in the air? Yeah, most definitely, because he's only got a year left on his contract.
Okay, while you're here, I may as well get your prediction for the Euros. Who do you think's going to
win? Well, because everyone had picked France, when ESPN asked me to do it, I picked Portugal, because I just think they've got a massive group of fantastic players who have had good seasons with their clubs. They're probably not as strong in depth as the likes of France, but the players that they've got, Ronaldo, Fernandes, Diaz, Cancelo, the Bernardo Silva, they're just wonderful, fantastic players, and they've been there and done it before. They won the Nations League, they've won the Euros. The group knows how to win, and I think if they can get through, obviously their group is tough. If they can get through that group, I think they'll fancy their chances against anyone. So my prediction is Portugal, even if it's just to be different than everyone else picking France.
Yeah, it'll probably be one or the other, won't it?
Well, yeah, I guess so. The number of teams in there who've got fantastic players is frightening. The likes of, no one's really talking about Italy. Italy haven't lost since 2018. I don't think there's some ridiculous stretch of games that they haven't lost, and Roberto Mancini has got them playing wonderfully well. So again, no one's really talking about Italy, but full of wonderful players. So hopefully it'll be a great tournament to watch, and the best team wins. I would like to see a team that plays attacking, expansive football, at least tries to win it. That would be nice if good attacking football was rewarded.
Yeah, no one's talking about Germany either, and of course England are one of the favourites too. So yeah, it's up in the air as to who could win in the end.
Well, it should be a good one. Like you say, never rule out Germany. They always seem to do it in major tournaments, don't they? And England as well. The semi-finals and final on home turf. They've got, again, the attacking players that England have got are fantastic. Just thinking about the players who won't even make that first game on Sunday, it's frightening to think about the players that they can bring on to change games. So, as I said, hopefully a good tournament to watch. That's all we can ask for.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thanks for coming on, Rob. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So everyone could just leave us a wee like on the video and subscribe to our channel. And if you're listening on audio, we're available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and all major podcast providers. Till next time, Rob.
Thanks a lot.